Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. My name is Taylor.
Talia.
And Tara will be left out of this video because we are going to be talking about all things breastfeeding. So we're gonna try to give you these tips in 10 basic tips, but we'll probably be more all over the place because we had two different experiences. So if you would like our advice on breastfeeding, keep on watching.
We are only moms, we're not experts.
Oh yeah.
It's just we are talking from personal experience.
One of the biggest things, like, people think that if you have bigger boobs, you'll have more of a supply, which isn't necessarily true. The thing with that is if you do have larger breasts, that means that you have a much larger storing space, so you very well may produce more, but it really all depends on your baby. Okay, so we're gonna kind of lay out some science-y type stuff here. Your milk is tailored to your baby. So if your baby is sick, your body is gonna start producing more antibodies to fight off the sickness. So if I was nursing AJ on this side and I nursed, we're just putting it out there, if I nursed her daughter on this side for like 3 to 4 straight sessions, my milk would literally start to change depending on what their body needed. So if you guys even go to Google and look up tandem nursing or tandem pumping or anything like that, and that basically means feeding 2 different babies from each breast, and you can see what the milk looks like. I think I even showed one time, I took a picture when AJ was sick compared to when he wasn't sick. So another thing, there's fore milk and there's hin milk. Fore milk is what comes out first, and it's more of like a watery, light type
for like
hydration. Yeah, and then the hin milk is much more, it's fat. So what that means is when they're nursing, they get all the fore milk first, and they have to keep sucking for the hin milk. We just want to say too that we are in no way making this video to shame mothers who formula feed, because I actually had to supplement with formula early on in the beginning, but I'll do a separate video as far as like my breastfeeding struggles, because we both have struggles, but they were different, and I actually had to supplement, which was horrible. But like I said, I'll get into that in a different video. Okay. So those are some things that we kind of wanted to add in here as far as the science-y background.
When I was pregnant, I was maybe like a little past 20 weeks, and I was like laying down one day, and then all of a sudden my shirt was like wet, and I was like, what the heck? So I was looking stuff up, and it's very normal for us to start producing. It's not actually the milk, it's the colostrum, which is what the baby first drinks when they are first born. Like, it has super amount of nutrients and proteins that they need because it's their first time eating. I had to go ahead and buy nursing pads because I was like randomly leaking, and it wasn't a lot, but I had more some days than others. So just be prepared, because you can produce while you're pregnant.
Yeah, and see, I didn't. We went to a baby shower, and her and one of our cousins had started early, and she was like, are you guys leaking? And Talia was like, oh yeah. And I'm sitting there like, nope. And I automatically thought, I'm like, oh crap, is there something wrong with me?
Yeah. Is
there something, like, am I not gonna produce any milk? And it's very normal to have all of these thoughts, because I can go in, yeah, because I was super scared that I wasn't gonna produce any, and my milk came in like 4 days after I gave birth. So one of our biggest tips too would be to join, if you are on Facebook, or I'm pretty sure there's even blogs out there that you could subscribe to, but join a mom group. That was the best thing for me, because I learned so much, because I was struggling so hard in my journey that I was like, there has to be somebody out there that can help me. There has to be answers, So one day I got on Facebook, and I was like, I'm just gonna search up breastfeeding groups. So I found so many breastfeeding groups. I was able to ask so many questions, and they provide there was one that actually had lactation consultants there. If you don't know what lactation consultants are, they basically help you along your journey, whether you're dealing with lip tongue ties and you're dealing with latch problems. Well, I kind of had a little bit of latch problems, but it didn't last very long, and you didn't have latch problems at all, right? Not really.
Not really.
It's hard in the beginning because their mouths are so little. I think it's really important. Questions. A lot of the questions that I seen was, can you drink while breastfeeding? Can you smoke? And smoke, you know, not just cigarettes. That's gross. But you know, can you do stuff like that? I had to get a CT scan one time, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna be able to breastfeed. I'm gonna have to pump. I hate pumping, but I'm not gonna be able to breastfeed. And I was like freaking out. So I asked all these questions, and they provided, you know, feedback. And you want to join a group that provides valid sources, because you don't just want somebody to be like, oh yeah, you can do this, with no backup.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like mom groups are what helped me so much, and they were able to make me get to my short-term goal, which was 6 months, and then now I'm approaching my long-term goal of a year. Talia reached her goal just recently, of a year. I say that that's really important. That would be one of my biggest tips.
Sometimes when you're in the hospital and the baby's trying to latch on, if you are having issues, a lot of times they have a lactation consultant there that can help you. It's normal for the baby not to know right away what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to do it. Maya, as soon as I picked her up, she was like trying to search. She was like, "Where's the food? So it was pretty easy, you know, for her to latch on.
From what I remember,
yeah,
he didn't have. It was like hard, like trying to get it in his mouth. Like he latched right away. As soon as they put him on, he was ready for it. You don't have to stick to one position. I mean, we like one position, which is the position like this, which is what most people do. But there's the football hold. Look up the positions, because there's a variety of positions you can try. You know, just find what works best for you. But I had one of the nurses actually help me, and she was like, you gotta squeeze it. You gotta squeeze your boob like this, and you know, just shove it in there, you know? So, so while you're there at the hospital, a lot of times they provide a lactation consultant. They can get really pricey, so I think it just depends on your area. But if it comes down to it, I didn't get to see one. If you are having some issues and you're not understanding, like you need to use a nipple shield. If you don't know what a nipple shield is, basically when you have like the inverted nipples, right? When they're kind of short and they don't stick out so much, so the baby's not able to get a full latch. Sometimes you have to use a nipple shield, and that just basically helps the baby.
So we're gonna talk a little bit about eating and hydration, because it is very, very, very important.
Super important.
Because your body takes away the fat from
your body. Well, I'm gonna link the article for you guys so you can check it out.
Yeah, and make sure you drink lots and lots and lots of water, because that also helps in production, and it's just good to stay hydrated anyway. And it helps especially give water to the baby, because you're producing water and fatty nutrition to be able to feed them, because I feel like I produce more when I keep up with my water intake. You can pretty much eat whatever you want. It's not like when you're pregnant, you know, you have to,
I think they encourage you, but like doctors, they will encourage you to eat things that are sometimes have spice to it, because then the baby can taste the spice and they get used to different tastes.
No, you want to try and eat, you know, kind of healthy, but
but don't limit yourself. Like if you want that juicy hamburger, eat it, because you need protein. You need a lot of protein.
Yeah, I mean, you can drink alcohol. It's not like it's a horrible thing to do. I personally don't drink, but you can, just again, you know, if you want to research or ask your doctor about how much you can drink. Just
to go along with that though, because not all doctors know a lot about breastfeeding. Because remember when I took AJ for his 9-month, and she was like, oh, he's not nursing for nutrition, he's nursing for comfort. And I'm like, no, he's still nursing because he needs nutrition. There are foods that help increase your supply, like oatmeal is one of them.
I'm gonna say like nuts, like peanuts.
Yeah, nuts are good too. So just like look up foods that are good for supply. Be mindful of foods that can hinder your supply. Like certain herbs can mess up your supply. Like peppermint, if you drink like a peppermint coffee, it's not gonna screw you up. But if you were to drink something with straight peppermint extract, I've read that can mess up your supply. A lot of people are thrown off by fenugreek. It really depends on your body, because I've heard mixed things like, oh yeah, it helps my supply, it hurt my supply. So just be mindful of what can hurt or help your supply. Don't look for something that's going to be a quick
fix.
One time where I was making oatmeal protein balls, and because I'm also a college mom, so I was kind of trying to keep my supply while in school. I think I ate like 4 to 6 in the morning, and I went from pumping 2 ounces from each breast to pumping 4 to 6. So that is what a quick fix is basically, like those lactation smoothies, lactation ball cookies and all of that stuff. It helps, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be your entire supply. So all these moms are raving about coconut milk, and it's like, oh well, that didn't work for me. And it's like, okay, well, every body is different.
So there's a fun thing called cluster feeding. Usually happens like when they're going through a leap.
It starts in the newborn stage, and then after that it's
but cluster feeding can help with supply too. They are stuck to you for hours and hours.
It's like,
some people can go days. They literally want to nurse,
oh,
and they'll take a break. But when they're ready to get back on, they start crying. They're very fussy.
Don't think something's wrong with you. Don't think that, oh my god, my baby is nursing so much because I'm not producing enough. No, it's not you, it's them.
Yeah, sometimes they just want to be on you. Yeah, I felt like at first something was wrong with her because I was like, well, maybe she's still like hungry, she's not eating enough. And you don't have to supplement with formula. They are not starving.
Yeah.
They just want to be on the boob. Like, she would fall asleep while nursing. So I was like, okay, let me put her down. And she would just start crying again and crying. So then I had to sit her there and just feed her and feed her. I don't remember what time I had finally went to bed because it was constantly feeding, just waiting for her to wake up again, because sometimes it was like every 30 minutes. I would get 30 minutes of her just laying there, and then she would start crying again. So then I had to put her back on, and that was the only thing that would calm her. So then finally I looked it up, and they're like, oh, is your baby treating you like a pacifier? And I'm like, yes, that's me right now. And it was explaining cluster feeding.
Yeah.
So again, like she said, don't worry, don't get scared. It's very exhausting.
You're basically nursing all day, all night. You're nursing all day. As long as they're peeing frequently, as long as they're pooping frequently, you have nothing to be worried about. So don't start freaking out. Don't think that something is wrong with you, that you're not producing enough. So look up, depending on what month your child is in, that it tells you how many times they should be using the restroom. So as long as they're going that amount of time in a certain time frame, you are perfectly fine. If you start freaking out and the first thing that you want to do is supplement with formula, do not do it. Supplementing with formula, if you guys don't know, will hinder your supply, because every time that you're not nursing, you're giving them the bottle of formula. Your body is basically telling itself, oh, hey, I'm not needed. I'm gonna stop producing milk, or I'm gonna slow down the milk. So
especially if you're very early on.
Yes.
Because you're just producing milk.
Yeah. I thank God that I didn't, because like I said, I had a supplement in the beginning, so my supply really could have hurt from that. But it didn't. I guess because I didn't supplement all the time. He was still on my boob very much, like Talia said, because we did the whole cluster feeding and that. It's really not fun, you guys, but it's worth it.
When you are first starting, it's so hard because your boobs are not constantly used to.
It's like a whole body shock.
Yeah, and you have constant sucking, I was so sore for months, and while they're eating, it hurts because you're sore and you're just like, oh my gosh, I want to take you off right now because it hurts so bad. But
do not quit because of the pain, because you'll get used to it. It gets better. We promise you. We really do. It gets better eventually. It will get better.
It does take time. Some people have cracking of their nipples. Some people go through bleeding.
Luckily, or blisters or things.
Yeah, if you do, you can purchase a cream to soothe yourself and to help with the bleeding.
There's a bunch of stuff out there. There's you can put heating pads and all kinds of.
But even if you do the cream, you can still nurse. It doesn't affect the baby, so it's fine. You can use your own breast milk on your breast and let it dry to help with soothing. So there's a thing called engorgement, and that too
painful.
It can be very painful because
it's like you have rocks in your titties.
And with engorgement, you are going to experience even more leaking because you're full of milk. And especially like when Maya would try eating, I was so engorged that it would be hard for her to latch.
Yeah, they basically choke on the milk.
That too, because there's so much coming out, and she would have milk coming all out. Some people
go up sizes.
Yeah, they go up like, you know, big sizes.
I don't think neither one of us like grew.
I've been wearing the same bra size since before
Praise
pregnancy.
the Lord.
Be prepared for your boobs to change. The engorgement it'll take a little bit of time, but once your body is used to your schedule and how often you feed and how much you feed, then it goes away. But
you know, the thing is like once your body gets used to a schedule, they start changing again.
Yeah,
it's like they go through a growth spurt and then you're screwed again.
Yeah, don't wait long to feed, because what you're supposed to do is feed every 2 to 3. Well, when they first born,
yeah,
you
but
should feed every 2 hours.
But don't strict yourself to a schedule. And it's like, oh, she just ate an hour ago, she's not hungry. And it's like,
yeah,
we both fed on demand. You want to look out for their cues, but it's like us, we get thirsty. And you know, I could be thirsty now and 2 minutes from now I'll be thirsty again. Don't listen to what people say, like, you just fed her, she's hungry again. Don't listen to the naysayers. Don't worry about what anybody else has to say. If you fed your baby 5 minutes ago and he wants booby again, you give him booby.
Yeah,
it's all supply and demand, honestly, you guys. The more they're demanding it, the more you're gonna have a better supply.
Yeah, but also be careful, because like, don't pump while engorged, because if it is too painful, like, just squeeze some milk out yourself until you're comfortable again, because you don't want to pump. Then your body's like, oh, well, then I need to keep producing that much milk, and you're gonna keep getting engorged, and your body's not gonna you know, stabilize itself, and it's gonna produce like this over amount of supply. And the problem with oversupply is you're constantly full, which it's hard for the milk to, you know, just flow out how it's supposed to, which can also bother your milk duct. You want to be careful with clogged ducts, because it can cause a lot of problems for you and the baby. And
you had one later on, right?
Yeah.
I had 2 or 3 clogged ducts. They are not fun, you guys. They are very painful, and you itch, and it's hard. It hurts to feed. It hurts to.
I mean, I was just like anything. Touch it, and I was like, oh my gosh. And if it's not taken care of, it can cause infection, which is mastitis. Yeah.
Nobody wants mastitis, and that's the problem with having an oversupply. Is you're more likely to get a clogged duct or mastitis. In some mom groups, when people post their stash and they have this huge, like 3,000 ounces of milk saved up, and it's like, oh, I have an oversupply, I feel sorry for you, because I could not imagine having to be hooked up to a pump all the time. So to add on to the pumping, if let's say her daughter is sleeping throughout the night, she needs to be pumping in order to keep up supply. Because like I said, what's gonna happen is your body's gonna say, oh, we're not needed as much, so we're gonna stop producing so much milk. That causes you to have a low supply, therefore causing you to like having to supplement. When AJ was pretty much sleeping 5 to 6 hours like straight throughout the night, I was up pumping every 2-3 hours, pumping, and it could range from 15 to 20 minutes. Or there's something called power pumping, which is where you essentially pump for about an hour, but you break in between. So I'm gonna pump for 20 minutes here, rest for 10, pump for 10, rest for 10, pump for 10. That can also increase your supply if you feel like you have a low supply, or you need to build a stash. Because more importantly, I needed to build a stash because I was going back to school. So I power pumped just about every single night. So make sure, if your child is not nursing throughout the night, if you're going through like X amount of hours without nursing, you need to be pumping. This is my favorite thing in the world, and it is a Haka pump. Okay, so this one is a knockoff, but it works just as well. So what this is a milk saver. It's different than pumping, but I have heard of women that can pump with this. So I'm gonna show you, not on myself. So what you do is like, you fold this part back, and like, let's say that this is my boob, and you just stick it, put this like this, and it's supposed to hang on to your breasts. And what this is when you're nursing your babe on one side, you put this on to catch the milk on the other side. Sometimes I've heard people don't leak when they're nursing, they just leak kind of randomly. But this works if you don't want to hand express. This works for when you're engorged. So because it's like I said, it's not an actual pump, it's not doing anything. All it does is it catches what is called your letdown. So if you put this on while you're engorged, it's gonna, all your milk is gonna come in here. And this is amazing if you were trying to build up a stash like I said, like I did for myself. So I would have nursed AJ on one side, hooked this up on the other side. This is a must-have. If you want to spend the money for an actual one, be my guest, but the knockoff works just as well. If you don't need a huge stash, do not try to work yourself up to getting a stash, people, because I've seen so many comments of moms that are so upset because they see these other people's stashes that are
they have
massive,
like their own deep freezer,
yeah,
and freezer's full,
and it's like
and
stack of stashes. You don't need it. We went out, we had like a girls' night out, and she ended up pumping, you know, like that week to save up milk to go out. Like, if you're that kind of person, that's all you need to do. You don't need a huge stash unless you're going back to work or you're going back to school or you're going to be away for a long period of time. Other than that, don't worry about working up a stash.
Since I'm a stay-at-home mom, I don't worry about pumping. And I honestly don't like it because it's tiring and you constantly have to clean all these little pieces.
Yeah, that's true.
And you know, worrying about bottles and stuff. Our other tip, which is clothing,
you need easy access.
yeah, you can't always wear, listen, it's hard sometimes because you can't always wear what you want to wear. You can't wear them super tight clothes unless you're wanting to like lift the whole thing up.
Yeah, or sweaters.
Yeah,
because I wear a lot of sweaters and long sleeves like this, so
yeah, and so it's kind of hard, but I mean it's manageable.
Because if they're nosy and they like, you're out in public and they pop off because they hear somebody talk,
let moms feed their babies.
we need to start normalizing breastfeeding. Hello, it's 2018, 21st century here. Can we grow up?
Like, these
I'm
were
just
made
feeding
just
my
for
baby.
that. So
Ridiculous.
They were not made to be a distraction or made for entertainment. They were made for feeding. So we need to stick to that and
Y'all
understand
need to grow up.
I cover up my front area. A lot of babies get hot when they're eating because especially if you're covering them, you know,
and we live in Florida, it's hot.
Yeah, and like no air is getting to them. She sweats even when she's uncovered. So what I do is just, you know, cover the little top bit or do the 2-shirt method where you have a tank top underneath and you have a regular shirt. The top shirt is still pretty much covering you, but you're able to, you know, put it out because you have the second shirt on. Just be mindful of, you know, where you're going and, you know, what you're going to wear, because if you do, you know, feed from the boobie, then you want it's easier for you and it's easier for the baby.
You know, just keep in mind you need easy access.
Yeah, pretty much. I just want to add that I had to deal with Maya having colic for a few months and it was not fun. And a lot of people were trying to tell me to cut out dairy from my diet because sometimes that helps.
They're digestive, like they have digestive problems.
Some people would cut out eggs, dairy, sometimes even like peanut butter, but anything that I tried, it didn't really work for her, but it may work for you. So let's say if you cut out dairy, give yourself, I say about a week or so that way the dairy can actually be fully out of your system to see if that makes a difference. Look at your baby's poop. If you look it up, it'll tell you like why their poop looks a certain way, and especially like breastfed babies usually have different poops than formula fed babies.
Yeah, my little one pooped once a week, whereas she pooped like every
day,
and it's totally normal.
I still feed Maya pretty much every 2 to 3 hours. I'm slowly trying to get her used to regular food, like as much as we eat. She loves the boob, so there's not much I can do about that.
There is nothing wrong with going past a year, okay?
Yeah.
They still have benefits. They're still receiving nutrition, so do not feel bad if you want to go past a year. There's nothing wrong with that.
And if you want to stop before a year, it's okay. You know, you did your best, because I know for some moms it is really hard. Some people start falling like into depression because they just are so exhausted, or they just have too much going on, and they just feel like they, you know, aren't producing enough, and then they feel guilty about it.
It's hard enough being a mom. Like, don't trip about, you know.
Yeah. And because, you know, breastfeeding is to me, I feel like it's amazing. It's a very, amazing bond that I have with her. But I'm not saying that you don't have a bond with your child. If you don't. I'm lucky that I was able to do what I do, and that I, produce enough for her, and that we both enjoy it. But like I said, in the beginning, it is hard. It's a lot to go through. Before you know it, it feels like you've been doing it like your whole life.
Yeah, like I said, she's already at a year, and I'm already approaching a year, and it's like, wow, Yeah.
Now you're just like, come on, come eat. You're just whipping it out.
Just like, we'll be in bed, and I'm laying there, and he just picks up my shirt.
Yeah.
I'm a little thirsty.
Yeah. Like, while she's eating, she's kicking her legs around, she's moving her butt around.
Yeah, they get creative.
Just like, can you just sit still and eat? But
gymnastics is what they call it. Gymnastics.
Yeah, they just all over the place.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We really hope that this is going to be helpful in your breastfeeding journey, whether you're starting it or continuing it or restarting it, because there are ways to restart your breastfeeding journey. But we really hope that these tips helped you. If you have any other questions you would like to ask us, or anything else that you want us to further go into depth,
comment down below whatever you want to maybe ask, or if you want us to touch up on something. Tell us your experience, what you went through.
If you like it, like it. If you don't like it, like it.
Make sure you subscribe to our channel to see our future videos. And if you haven't already, go watch our other videos. And we will see you next time. Because
over the shoulder boulder holder. That's what a bra is. Shout out to you big booby ladies, but I could not do it.
I couldn't do it. No.